You're very welcome along to the Matchbook Football Podcast. We're back. I am your host, Daniel Hussey, joined by the regular duo, we hope, throughout the season of Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke. Now, obviously, people have got the thoughts of Mark O'Haire already throughout the outright. Mark, bit of blowback on some of your thoughts. You're standing by most of them from the start of the season. It's in people's podcast feed if they haven't listened yet.
Yeah, happy to stand up to all of the suggestions that I put up and the official bets as well, including Nottingham Forest, despite the hate mail. But Bournemouth probably be the only one I'd row back on, actually. Before we went to air, 2 weeks ago, there's a Banyan news hadn't been kind of confirmed. So I want to see a bit more business from them before I kind of sort of go back in on that top half finish. But I don't expect them to be dragged into trouble at all. But sort of tempered my enthusiasm for them to go as well as I hoped. So yeah, we got another couple of weeks really for some business to be done, and the business has been very smart and shrewd over the last couple of years. So I've no doubt they'll do some good work in the window. But right now, it's a no bet.
Yeah, Adrian, we might have done you a favour taking you out of the firing line and saving it for the opening game week, mate. But how's your summer been, etc.?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, I've loved it. It didn't work too hard over the summer, really, which was needed. But yeah, making up for it in the last 2 or 3 weeks now that the EFL season's underway and various things going on. So yeah, I've been and watched a lot of live games already. So yeah, bring it on. It's going to be a fun season, hopefully.
Yeah, and I think the little bit of a break outside, obviously, the Club World Cup and other football going on, it was more or less a break for most people. I think just chatting to my friends, etc., to get us a bit of a break from the day in, day out of loads of football, and we're very much looking forward to having it back. It's a busy season for Matchbook 2, so before we get going, a reminder of the offer we have currently, Pod 50. This is exclusive to podcast listeners, the best offer you can possibly get from Matchbook at the moment. If you want to join the team this season, enter the bonus code Pod 50, place £50 worth on at least 4 different markets at around odds of even money or better. That's 2.0, and qualified users will get 5 by £10 free bets. Full T's and C's available on screen if you're watching on YouTube, or you can check out the Matchbook promotions tab as well. And reminder of our outright selection as well. Still not too late to do this. Bet £20 on any team to win the Premier League. This is for new customers as well, and you get a £3 free bet every time your team wins a game. Liverpool won 25 games last season, so that's effectively £75 in free bets. Now you can see Mark and Adrian on our screen. If you're new to the podcast, Mark and Adrian, I'll let the guys select. We usually go for 4 marquee Premier League games, usually the TV ones, onto our any other bets. Adrian's usually specialised in the EFL. Mark at the European selections, long shots, and best bets as well. We will tend to live stream this if you're watching now on YouTube to keep you involved with the show as best we can. But if you are listening on the podcast, that podcast is edited and posted in your feed shortly after recording, usually within an hour or two. Now, finally, we wanted one for existing customers as well, and loyal Matchbook customers. If you head over to our YouTube video once we're finished recording live here, all we want from you is comment your Premier League winner, top goal scorer, and 3 relegated teams, and you'll enter competition to win a £20 football free bet with Matchbook. We have a couple of them to give away. Full T's and C's apply, and producer Rob will select a couple at random on Monday. So that's all we've got, and that's everything covered there. But the 4 games we're covering on the opening weekend is Manchester United versus Arsenal, Liverpool, Bournemouth, Villa, Newcastle, and Wolves versus Manchester City. So we will start with Manchester United versus Arsenal. Now we'll currently take a look at the betting that we have on matchbook.com. So you can currently get Manchester United. We'll get the odds up on screen in just a second. But we might start with you, Adrian, on this one. Manchester United versus Arsenal. A very tough opening day for Arsenal, going to Old Trafford. 4:30 kickoff. You can see there United 385, Arsenal 208. The draw 11-4 or 375 with both teams to score yes at 161. So yeah, Adrian, take it away.
Yeah, no, difficult opener for Arsenal. Difficult first 6 games for Mikel Arteta's side. So we've really got to hit the ground running. I'm sort of looking at it as an opportunity to take points off rivals early on in the campaign before they've sort of settled into their rhythm. So we'll see if that's what transpires from an Arsenal perspective. So yeah, I look. Obviously, there's a lot of excitement around Manchester United at the moment. They've got a brand new forward line with Seshko and then Cunha in behind with Brian and Bumo. And you know, those 3 players have scored more league goals last year than Man United managed in total. You know, so it's quite an upgrade, and it'll be fascinating to see how that blends in. Amrim's had his first pre-season. It's by and large gone pretty well. I know they were a little bit flat in their last friendly, but by and large, I think United fans are happy with the direction of travel at Old Trafford. So it's not going to be an easy game. United have a good record as well at home to Arsenal. A lot of draws in there, but very rare actually that Arsenal go to Old Trafford and win, even when United have been in awful shape. But I would lean towards Arsenal. Putting all bias to one side, I just think that Arsenal are going to be there or thereabouts again. The strengthening this summer has been outstanding. Zubimendi looks a terrific addition. And I just think that midfield of Zubimendi, Rice and Ødegaard might be a little bit too much for Manchester United's midfield in this game. We've seen a slight tweak to the way that they're set up as well. It's definitely more of a double pivot now with Rice alongside Zubimendi. And I think that's really important for Arsenal in this game because you've got Cunha and Mbeumo who are going to look to get into those little pockets between midfield and attack. And I think it's really important that's not left to just one holding midfield player to look after. So there's a little bit more security maybe in Arsenal's midfield with Ødegaard just playing a bit more central, which I think, again, is a positive. Victor Gyökeres has looked really good in the last friendly. He's such a good runner. He makes run after run after run. And I do think in a game like this, he'll look to stretch that United three-man rearguard down the sides. He's going to take Arsenal up the pitch with a little bit more conviction than we've seen before. I think Arsenal will be a bit more direct this season as well. So I like what I see. The reason I'm really going with Arsenal is it has to be based on recruitment, but also on recent times. And Arsenal are unbeaten in 2 whole seasons against the traditional Big Six. So that has to give Arsenal some confidence. Well, it will give plenty of confidence. Too many draws in there, yes, but unbeaten over that length of time is impressive. Also unbeaten in the last 14 Premier League away games. Last time Arsenal lost in their travels was last November at Newcastle when they got beat 1-0. So, this is the type of match Arsenal haven't been losing. So I'm going to go with Arsenal double chance. I'm going to pair it. So just to cover the draw. And I'm going to pair it with both teams to score because Arsenal have scored in each of their last 11 Premier League away games at Old Trafford. I think they'll score again for sure. It's just, can they get that second and third goal? That's the real key for Arsenal this season. But I'm not wholly confident Arsenal keep a clean sheet. There'll be a real buzz about United with the new signings. Arsenal's defence has made mistakes during pre-season. Gabriel's a little bit short on fitness. We don't know who the fullbacks are going to be. It's sort of a toss of the coin, really, for Arteta based on pre-season form. So I can see United scoring, but Arsenal will score at least once. Hopefully, from my perspective, more than once and win the game. But yeah, my pick here would be both teams to score an Arsenal double chance. It's 2.1.
Okay, Adrian selecting Arsenal there, or at least pro-Arsenal in terms of the result, and both teams to score. So it is proceed with caution. Mark, you're essentially on the other end of the scale there. So I'm guessing you're being quietly impressed with Manchester United's business in the transfer window this season.
Yeah, not completely, but it's an upgrade. It's an improvement on what they had. So in that sense, yes. But I don't think Cunha, Mbeumo, Sesko would be going to any of the sort of top 4, the big 4 at the moment. Hence why they're at Manchester United. But it's an upgrade on what they've got. It will improve an area of weakness from last season. They failed to score in 15 Premier League games last year. Only Southampton and Leicester had a worse record in terms of failing to hit the back of the net. So in that regard, it's an improvement. Dorgu, of course, came in January. It looked decent. Yoro's fit and available. Bruno Fernandes is still one of the best players in the league. Still got an issue in goal, I'd say, Manchester United. But yeah, in doing my sort of 1 to 20s for the Premier League, I kind of surprised myself a little bit by having United up in 7th, which feels like an enormous leap of faith based on what they produced last year. But the market has them as 5th favourites to win the title, which is just unbelievable, really. But I do expect reasonable improvement this time around. You can't really expect them to be anywhere near as bad as they were. The majority of that improvement may come later in the season because their freshness from no European football will be a massive benefit compared to the 9 teams who will be playing in Europe. But yeah, I'm still a massive believer in Ruben Amorim, despite the obvious shortcomings of last season. And he did tend to get a tune out of United in the more high-profile matches. You think of 2 episodes against Arsenal, actually, where they They drew at Old Trafford, I think in the FA Cup away from home as well. Held Man City at Old Trafford, competed really well and got something away at Liverpool. In all of those matches, the market made them significant underdogs as well. So perhaps he's got something in terms of setting his side up to be competitive when they're sort of expected to be up against it, really, which they will be here. And Arsenal's price at 2.08 just doesn't really appeal to me, really. I don't think this is a coin flip of a game. This isn't the venue where Arsenal have fared particularly well, not just recently, but throughout the years, really. It's just 2 wins in the last 18 trips to Old Trafford. And they've gone to Old Trafford against a much lesser United and not always gotten the results. So I'm going to have United on side here with a half-goal start. It's 188 on the exchange. I think you can probably get 190 if you post up for it. But what I should say, actually, is the draw, I believe, is a massive runner here. Arsenal do remain incredibly tough to beat. Just 4 league defeats last season. As Adrian says, they're unbeaten in, 21 games, I think, against the traditional Big Six. We know defensively they do tend to be strong. I agree. I love the addition of Zubimendi. I'm shocked that Real Madrid never went and tried to take him. A fit Saka, a fit Havertz, Gyökeres as well. There's more edge in the final third. But I looked at Arsenal's record away from home when priced up around 2.1 or bigger. Since the start of 23-24, they've only won once in 9 away games at 2.1 or bigger. And that was Spurs last season in September. 7 of those 9 games ended in a draw. So I really would not be surprised to see something similar occur at the weekend. But for the sake of this podcast, I'm going to be putting up United plus half a goal at 188. And we'll get paid out as long as they avoid defeat.
Okay, that's Manchester United effectively double chance on the Asian handicap plus 0.5. Both teams scoring Arsenal double chance for Adrian at 2.1. I'll let viewers and listeners this season decide which one of those selections they want to go for. That's insights.matchbook.com. It usually the Sunday 4:30 game, I try and get the lads to do the £10 money back podcast bet builder special, which will be back this season. Unfortunately, the guys couldn't agree on this, but there is more agreement on the Liverpool versus Bournemouth game, which opens our Premier League coverage Friday 8 p.m. It's Liverpool versus Bournemouth. We'll take a look at the betting on screen now on matchbook.com, where Liverpool are overwhelming favourites to get kickstart the Premier League season. While we look at prices, Adrian, I'll start with you once again. Okay. Liverpool, Bournemouth, all we have really to go on here is the Community Shield. Were there 1 or 2 surprises for you maybe in how Liverpool didn't get the job done against Crystal Palace, or very early days?
No, it's still very early days. But look, I think that they will score a lot of goals this season. I think that much is clear. Whether they get Isak or not, I think that they'll score plenty. But I do worry a little bit. I don't worry because I'm not a Liverpool supporter, but I do believe that they have a lack of depth in quite a lot of positions. So, I think at centre half, certainly in central midfield, if Gravenberch and McAllister are injured, what's behind them. There's a shortage of forwards really as well, should injuries bite. So I do think they've got work to do between now and the end of the window to fully justify their favourites tag here this season. They didn't defend well against Palace, and Palace were good value for that draw and ultimately the win on penalties. But they're up against a Bournemouth team that's been decimated this summer. They've lost their goalkeeper Kepa, and they've lost 3 of their back 4. Huijsen's gone to Real Madrid, Zabani's gone to PSG, and Kirkes has gone to Liverpool. Kepa's gone to Arsenal. So they've gone to some giants, haven't they? Which shows the quality of the player that they've lost. And starting again with a whole new back 4 is tough, let me tell you. And you don't really want to be going to Anfield on the opening day with a brand new back 4. So I really have to fancy Liverpool here to outscore Bournemouth. Bournemouth have pace up top, so they have the ability to go and hurt Liverpool, who I think will be really attacking this season. Looking at the fullbacks, you certainly imagine so. So I do think there might be a vulnerability on the counter to teams like Bournemouth. So it wouldn't surprise me if Bournemouth got a goal here, but yeah, overall, I would say that you have to look at Liverpool here to kick their season off with a win. I'm going to pair a win because obviously a Liverpool victory is really short. I'm going to pair it with a Mo Salah goal. Now, I actually am sceptical that Mo Salah can get anywhere near the numbers he did last year. just because he's a year older. Last year was just phenomenal. Everything he touched really turned to gold. I'm not sure he's going to hit those heights again. Maybe that's just wishful thinking from an Arsenal supporter. I don't know. But I do think that he has a great chance of scoring. He scored more goals, 9 of them. He scored more goals on the opening weekend of a Premier League campaign than any other player in Premier League history. 9. He's got lots of assists in there as well. He loves an opening day strike, does Mo Salah. And I would expect Liverpool to score 2 or 3 goals minimum here against a Bournemouth team that's had a really tough pre-season. They haven't particularly played well. So look, it's early days. We're going on bits and pieces really at this stage, aren't we? But yeah, for me, it has to be Liverpool. And I'm going to pair it with Salah because history tells you that he starts seasons very, very well.
Okay, yeah, and that's 1.82 if you put that on the matchbook bet builder. Now, Mark, on maybe Adrian's comments on Mo Salah, like those opening day stats show how good preseason is for him every single time. He's obviously been phenomenal for the last few years. Small worrying signs because of the lack of touches in the Community Shield, or are we reading far too much into probably what's ultimately a glorified preseason friendly for some of those big teams anyway when they play it?
Yeah, probably so. I would take more interest in the second half of last season. We know the first half of the campaign, he was clearly desperate for a new contract, desperate to stay at Liverpool, and that perhaps was the driving force behind that unbelievable run of form. But I also read comments, I think Romani Slot and Salah himself, who basically said that in the second half of the season, teams were so aware of his threat and his ability in the game plan of Liverpool, but they doubled up on him and sort of made life a lot more difficult for him, and hence the drop off in those figures as well in the second half of the campaign. So that's perhaps something to look out for. But yeah, I wouldn't want to sort of oppose him from scoring a goal against any opposition. But in terms of this match, yeah, I mean, I liked Bournemouth at the start of the summer. I thought Andoni Iraola, to keep him was an enormous asset, really. And they could build on year progression, really, and continue to sort of be amongst the shake-up for European qualification. But I still think they'll do a lot of smart business before the end of the window. But to go to Anfield without Zorbanyo and Howson, I think is a big worry. I've no concerns about the goalkeeper and left-back. Petkovic is arguably an upgrade in goal, and Truffert was a terrific left-back in France, perhaps the best one in France last season. So I think he can slot in and do a decent job. They've signed Diakite as well from Lille at centre-back, and he's got a lot of promise about him. But as Adrian says, it's a big ask to slot them all in and plug in and play straight away at Anfield. Chuck in no Cook, no Christie for Friday night. Start to wonder whether they're capable of keeping Liverpool below 2-3 goals. And but on the flip side, I have absolutely no doubts they'll make life uncomfortable for Liverpool. They gave them real headaches in both of last season's meetings. Despite losing both, they managed 33 shots home and away against Liverpool, 5 big chances, hit the woodwork 3 times, and generated 2.66 expected goals. So Iraola seems to know what's required to sort of unlock that Liverpool defence a little bit. And while Kluivert might be missing here, Evan Nilsson will be involved. And I think we saw signs against Palace that Liverpool's defence isn't quite set up to be sort of that rock solid system, which perhaps they're looking for. And, you know, Gravenberch is suspended as well. So you've got potentially McAllister and Jones, or McAllister and Szoboszlai in central midfield. Frimpong will leave gaps because he just can't help himself galloping forward. And yeah, I just think even Van Dijk looked unsteady too. So in transitions, like Palace did, I think Bournemouth can cause them problems. 13 different teams scored in the Premier League at Anfield last season. So I don't think there's any reason why Bournemouth shouldn't be looking at this as a potential game to get amongst the goals themselves. But for me, the increase on Liverpool to win at 131 on the nose to the 254 by including both teams to score, for me was the obvious play here. We know Liverpool at Anfield are very difficult to stop, but quite fancy Bournemouth to cause them a few problems and potentially get on the score sheet too.
Okay, so small bit of agreement there. Mark's selection itself, and that's the official bets that the guys will be put up, and we'll track this season on insights.matchbook.com. All the bets, not just best bets. It's Liverpool to win and both teams to score 254 at the time of recording. If we combine that with a Mo Salah to score, you're getting 3.0 on the Matchbook Bet Builder. The Matchbook Betting Exchange has invariably the best price on our exchange markets, but we also give you the option of a Bet Builder as well. And every week we're going to keep going what we did last season, £10 money back special exclusive for podcast listeners. So this week it's Liverpool to win, both teams to score, Mo Salah 3.0. Put that in your matchbook bet builder, and we will do the rest. Give you a free bet Monday morning if that bet loses, and hopefully no need to do that and it wins, and you'll have the money for the weekend. Let's move on to the early kickoff, Villa versus Newcastle. Not the opening kickoff, obviously we've just covered that with Liverpool Bournemouth, but this is Aston Villa versus Newcastle. Quick look at the betting that we currently have on matchbook.com. You can back Aston Villa 236 currently, Newcastle 3.15, and the draw currently available at 3.8. Both teams to score there, you can see at around 1.6. So again, market favoring goals there. Mark, we'll start with you on this one. Where are these two teams? Because if anything, Newcastle have been, unfortunately for them, the story of the summer. Started okay, I thought, in maybe Elanga, but after that, it's just been a disaster. And this Isak thing is going to hang over them this game and maybe throughout the end of August before the saga gets sorted one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, just when you think Newcastle are heading in the right direction, they get the cup win, and the elation from that, the vibe surrounding the club and the city was amazing, really, and the confidence in the market from them when sort of the opening show came around in May. But fast forward to August, and it's all dissipated completely. It's a second major summer without sort of major investment, really, and that Isak saga, it's getting very ugly. He's been asked to basically, or advised not to go into the city because of his safety, and it's all got very, very ugly, and he won't be involved, and it's very difficult to see a way back for him now. But they've been on the drift for a long time now. They're lacking a bit of freshness, lacking a bit of energy and inspiration, I think, and they still boast that super strong midfield. But this is a really awkward opening day game for Newcastle, a ground where they lost 5 of their last 6 visits. They also won once away from home against the top 13 last season. They lost 7 of those 12 games, including all of their trips to the top 6. So I do think there's enough ammunition here to go at Aston Villa at a nice price, because I've kind of come full circle with Villa. I started the summer pretty positive, then sort of wondered, are they standing still here while others are potentially getting stronger? We saw Rashford, Asensio and Disasi leave after their January loans. There was speculation around Watkins and Emi Martinez. But that speculation has subsided. Martinez is still there. He might be suspended this weekend, but even still, Watkins is refreshed after a summer off, and he's looking really good and really sharp in pre-season. They've added Evan Gassan from Nice, who was their player of the season, player very much in a similar mould to Morgan Rogers, who had a really outstanding campaign, and we expect more progress from him. The defence, I think, might need a little body or two to potentially sort of strengthen them in depth going forward. But ultimately, you've got a pretty settled and strong side with continuity, renewed hope, Unai Emery, a coach you can trust, and a team playing at home who are just super strong when that crowd is behind them. They finished the season with 8 wins on the spin at Villa Park. They're 21 unbeaten at home across all competitions now as well. And I think they'll be gunning for Newcastle. I think they'll see this as a real opportunity to put down a marker. And I actually like Villa to finish in the top 6. If there's a top 5 market, absolutely. They might not have enough to be top 4, but I think this is a great chance for them to get off to a winning start. So if you want a touch of insurance, there's an opportunity to back Villa minus a quarter even and get the draw on side. But I'm just going to hit them on the nose here at 2.36, I think it is, on the Matchbook Exchange right now. I think that's a nice price. The market's effectively saying these two teams are around about equal, if not Newcastle ever so slightly better. But I think you're missing Isak, and your standard drops off quite significantly, especially if Callum Wilson sold as well. So they are lacking in the final third, and I think this is a trappy game for them to start. So Villa on the nose at 2.36.
Okay, yeah, a range of outright markets. We discussed this on the outright pod. That is in your feed with Mark. If you do want a recap of that, we top 4 markets, top 6 markets, top 10 markets, relegation, top goal scorer, winner, all before the start of the season there. Markets selecting Villa to beat Newcastle at 2.34. And Adrian, you find it hard to agree with maybe citing goals here. Is a lot of that down to Newcastle, or have you been quietly impressed with Villa as well and some of their business?
Yeah, it's a bit early to say. I think there's a lot more to come from Villa. I think once Ramsey goes, and it looks like he's going to go to Newcastle, doesn't it? I think there'll be a domino effect, and they'll be able to bring in a couple more faces. So they might look a little bit different come the end of the window. Newcastle the same. Who knows? They're just waiting on the Isak thing, but it's been so disruptive, hasn't it? And you can see in Eddie Howe's body language, he looks quite hurt by it all, thoroughly fed up, I'd imagine. The players will just crack on. they'll probably have a giggle about it, but in private, and probably tease Isak. They won't have an issue with him massively, I don't think, but they will miss him as a player because he was brilliant. So yeah,
Adrian, just on the Isak before we go. So have you been in a dressing room where that's happened and a player is effectively asked to leave, or how do you react in a dressing room?
I think I must have done. There's not one particular thing that springs to mind, but yeah, for sure. Players don't care really; they're just worried about their own thing. If a player wants to go, they want to go. They all recognise it's a short career, and the opportunity to go to Liverpool. It's hard to deny anyone that, isn't it? It's just obviously not their business, the deal that the club makes. So we'll see what happens. Personally, I just think it probably has to get done now, and that Newcastle will have to compromise and agree on a fee, and they'll probably bring in 2 strikers, won't they? Because they won't get one that's as good as Isak, so they have to double up and get two decent ones, and see how they go. Obviously, in this game, who's going to play up front? Gordon, maybe. I mean, they've still got really good players, haven't they? Still got pace down the sides. I like Alanga. Obviously, you got Harvey Barnes. Midfield's fantastic. Watched them in pre-season. They were their usual selves, pretty aggressive. A threat going forward, but not great at the back, I have to say, when they played Arsenal. Just for all the reasons sort of outlined, I'm going to go against Newcastle. Newcastle don't have a good record at Villa Park. I think they've lost 5 of their last 6 at Villa Park in the league. I think that Villa should win this game. They're more settled. There's been less disruption. I'd imagine there's a real steady focus. Ollie Watkins has a great record, like Salah. Early on in the season, he's got a great record against Newcastle. He's scored in every home match against Newcastle in his career. So maybe he should lump on Ollie Watkins in this game. But that home record's phenomenal. So yeah, I'm going to go with Villa too. But I want to chuck in goals because even though it's an early kickoff, I think this is traditionally a pretty attack-minded fixture. Villa won 4-1 last time they came to Newcastle, went there. I had a look at the recent history. Last 6 meetings, 25 goals, which averages out at over 4 per game. All of the last 6 games have gone over 2.5 goals. And I just think with a fervent atmosphere, Rodgers and Watkins really running at Newcastle, but also that high line being troubled by the speed of Alanga and Gordon and Barnes, I can see there being some really good chances for both teams. So I'm going to go Villa to win and over 2.5 goals. It bumps up the price lovely, actually, to 3.35.
Yeah, tad bigger there this morning, 3.4 now, Adrian. So those bets of both Villa win, but also coupled with over 2.5 goals, you can get that in the other section on the Matchbook Betting Exchange. You don't even have to go to the Bet Builder for that. And invariably on the exchange, remember, you are getting very close to 100% margin, or over round. So that's the best possible price out there. Final game we're covering on the TV slate, Wolves versus Manchester City. This is a 5:30 game. We currently take a look at the betting we have on matchbook.com. You can back Wolves, big underdogs here, 7.6. The Manchester City to win price is the 147. The draw is 5.1. Both teams to score a lot closer to even money here. Yes is available at 1.9 with no at 2.08. So Mark, kick us off here. Is this a traditional Manchester City or away from home? They're 147. Let's try and find a way to back them at a price that gets us as close to even money as possible. So we're pro Manchester City throughout the game.
I think so, yeah. And look, I'm still not completely convinced this regeneration of Man City will immediately turn into the sort of killing winning machine that we've become used to over the years before last season's blip. I still would trust Pep to find solutions and significant improvements on last year, but this is down to price, really. It's Man City's biggest price away at Molineux since 2020. And I would expect them to be capable of putting in a strong performance. I know Rodri is missing and will be out for a few weeks again, which is a massive blow. But they've had enough time over the last year to try and work for solutions without him. And interestingly enough, last weekend against Palermo in the last friendly, they started with Nico and Nico, central midfield pivots, Gonzalez and O'Reilly. But Reinders, I think, came on and made a big difference. You've got Bernardo and Gundogan there as well. So it's probably more likely to be 2 from those 3 senior players. John Stones is fit and available. That's always an option too. Quite an outstanding player, able to slot in different positions. But you look at the individual quality available to City this weekend. Ryan Cherki's already made a massive impression, understandably so, a huge talent. Marmouche there from the off now this season. Haaland is fit and available. They should have enough individual quality and firepower to put Wolves to the sword. They were the best performing team in terms of points in the second half of last season, Man City, even though performances didn't always match that outcome. And I would just fancy them to do enough here. But Wolves lost all but one home game against the top 9 last season. They also lost home and away against all of the top 5 as well. And look, they enjoyed a incredible resurgence under Vitor Pereira, but they've since lost 55% of their goal tally with Cunha, Aït-Nouri gone. Semedo, I think, is a massive loss as well. So they're looking weak at wing-back, which is an area where Pereira likes to play. I really like the addition of Jean Arias, but one player's not going to solve all of their issues. And in pre-season, they've looked very disjointed at the back. They've looked like they've lacked a bit of energy and ideas in forward areas. 4 defeats and 2 draws in their 6 pre-season games. I don't ordinarily look into stuff in terms of pre-season too seriously, but I think that has to be considered when you're hosting Man City in your first game. And if you sketch out the respective 11s, Wolves' squad looks noticeably thin and Man City's looks quite formidable again. So I don't expect City to run away with it. More than half of their away games last year went under 2.5 goals. But yeah, if we back City to win under 4.5 goals, we're getting a 10-11 shot, 191. And just 2 of City's 19 away games last year went over 4.5 goals. They went 7-3-0 away at the bottom half and kept 7 clean sheets in that sample as well. So that should lead you nicely on to Adrian's selection, which was and also a strong consideration for myself.
Yeah, so Mark, it's City to win under 4.5 goals, 191. But if you combine the City win with both teams to score, no, Adrian, effectively backing them to win to nil, you're getting 2.58 currently on Matchbook.
Yeah, and that's why I picked it. Yeah, just as an alternative, it's a slightly better price. It's a lovely jump, isn't it, from 1.47 on City on the nose. I do think that for Chelsea and City, the Club World Cup involvement will be a positive in the early weeks of the season. You know, they've had plenty of competitive football during the summer, and I think they'll be in a good place early on. I think later on in the campaign, it might come back to sort of bite them a little bit. But yeah, look, Wolves losing Cunha and Aït-Nouri and Semedo is big. I don't think you can underplay that really. Even though they scored more goals last season under Vitor Pereira, that's a lot of goals out of the team and a lot of creativity. So I worry for them a little bit. City have just got so many good players. They've got so much depth, haven't they? And I just think after last year, I don't think they had many clean sheets before Christmas on the road. It might have been one or 2 max clean sheets before Christmas on the road last year, City. Not great at all. But I do think it's pretty clear that Pep has to work on it. He has to find a way to be a little bit more solid to make sure they get more clean sheets. Wolves had blanks only 3 times last year at home, but you know, Arsenal was one of them. You know, when they come up against the top sides, they usually just fall short. They were involved in 2 tight defeats to City last year, weren't blown away. And I don't think they get blown away in this one either, but I can absolutely see City producing a polished, professional away performance with a 1-0 or 2-0 win. I just think that's how it's going to go. So I would happily jump on with Mark's selection, but yeah, if you're really confident in this clean sheet, and really, who the big threat? Strand Larsen's the big threat, isn't he? They lack a bit of creativity. You got Marshall Monetsi, Fair Lopez has come in. Arias is, looks a strong runner, but we don't know whether he's Premier League level, do we? So there's a lot of unknowns with Wolves, but what we do know about City is that they've got great players, and I think that they'll get the job done here, even if it's not the most spectacular. So yeah, City to win 2-0, 2.4.
Okay, yeah. City to win to nil, 2.58 actually, Adrian. So even bigger
wow.
price than initial. And Manchester City to win under 4.5 goals. For Mark, insights.matchbook.com. We'll have a full recap of those 4 marquee games every week. Matchbook Insights, your one-stop shop for bets throughout the weekend on the Premier League and any other bets, long shots and best bets. And reminder, if you can take 2 seconds to hit that like button as well. If you are watching on YouTube or if you're listening on the podcast, a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Mark, you have 2 selections here. We're starting in the Premier League, so I'll let you kick on with Nottingham Forest versus Brentford. You can maybe touch briefly on your Forest to be relegated shout, or perhaps being overpriced, and how you're going to go about trying to make money through that lens throughout the season.
Yeah, so if anyone who tuned into our outright preview, I put up Nottingham Forest to be relegated. I am expecting a season of regression from them. I said on the show I don't think they will be relegated, but the price was too big. So we're dealing in betting here. It's price and probability, and I think the market has overvalued Forest a little bit based on last season, when I felt there was a huge amount of unsustainables based around their performance in both boxes and in terms of squad selection too. Obviously have to deal with European commitments now this season. And that's quite interesting, really, because it brings me on to their pre-season, where they've tried to basically replicate and acclimatise to what will be European football this season by effectively scheduling their matches every 3 days, playing and training at certain times. Thursday to Sunday, obviously, will be something they have to try and get used to. And they've tried to basically acclimatise to what that might be. But the results have been underwhelming, to say the least. They have played 7 pre-season games. This is Nottingham Forest. They've drawn 5 and they've lost twice. So they're winless. 5 of those draws ended 0-0. And they've scored just 1 goal in those 7 outings in pre-season, which is quite amusing, really, because last season, only 4 clubs generated a lower non-penalty expected goals figure than Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. 3 of those 4 clubs were relegated. So considering how the last month in pre-season has gone, and in terms of their unsustainable nature last season, I think they're going to struggle for goals a little bit this season. And they might struggle for goals this weekend, when the expectation will be for them to hit the ground running at home against a Brentford team who have been gutted of their key assets. We know their coach and their best, or Thomas Frank has gone and brought his favourite coaches with him. Brian Mbuemo's gone, their best creator. Norgard, their captain and defensive midfield force. And Visser wants out and probably won't feature. So they have upgraded in goal with Kelleher, but I think the assumption is that Brentford will struggle this season. But I kind of back Matthew Benham and that club to find the right personnel, the right direction. There will be contingency plans in place, succession plans. But anyway, they're obviously missing a large chunk of goals and creativity from last season too. So I kind of put Forest's overperformance last year, plus their troubling pre-season, plus Brentford losing a glut of key leading lights in the forward areas. And I had to have a look at under 2.5 goals in this match, and it was trading basically around evens. And I thought that's quite appealing to me for match day 1. Both of last season's 2 meetings between these 2 teams, 1 for the away team, 2-0, so unders won on both occasions. 68% of Forest's matches at City Ground went under 2.5 goals, and the non-penalty expected goals average in those fixtures in the Premier League was 2.17 for Forest home fixtures. So there's more than enough ammunition, I think, to back unders here at around about evens. Shall I go on for the Championship?
Yeah, but just to say that was very concrete case, Adrian, on poor Forest. It seems he's really sticking the knife into them there. But under 2.5 goals does seem quite good.
Yeah, he's not planning on going to the City Ground anytime soon, is he?
See, you might get a commentary gig there, mate. That's
exactly. I'm quite local.
Yeah.
But I agree, and I have got myself a Forest base bet to come. So
okay,
stay tuned. Yeah,
stay tuned. And Mark, take it away with Millwall to beat Middlesbrough.
Yeah, this price has been chopped in. Annoyingly, I put my sort of stuff together on Tuesday, and then Middlesbrough went and got absolutely duffed up in the EFL Cup. And Millwall's price has contracted a little bit. Only just as well, wasn't it? 4-0 against Doncaster. Embarrassing stuff. But Millwall were 2.4. They're 2.28 now on the Matchbook Exchange. I really like them this season. I really like what they're brewing down there. They've got a coach very much in keeping with the house style, rugged, aggressive, highly motivated, eager to play the underdog role, make life difficult for their opposition. And he's built a squad and a team in those same characteristics. And they will be difficult to beat this season, particularly at the Den. They will be direct, uncompromising. And they started with that really eye-catching win away at Norwich, where they had 9 shots in the box and generated over 2 expected goals at Carrow Road. Norwich might have bossed the ball, but Millwall was so superbly set up and provided that counter-attacking threat and proved pretty decisive in doing it. But in the second half, they really bullied Norwich as well. And it's a kind of performance that I really embraced, because it's all about Millwall that, and bring Middlesbrough back to the Den. And I can just see them bullying this Borough side, who did axe Michael Carrick, but brought in Rob Edwards. I still feel this team can be bullied, nowhere near as industrious as Millwall will be. They lost 12 times on their travels last term, including 9 of 13 at the top 14. In contrast, Millwall, who beat them at the Den, won 7 of 13 when hosting the top 14. and they conceded just 0 or 1 goals in 12 of those 13 fixtures as well. So they're sturdy. They've got a set-piece threat, just that all-round aggression. This just feels like an occasion where Millwall will bully the opposition at the Den. I had them around about evens, so was really interested in anything at 2.2 or above. There was 2.4. It's 228 now. But yeah, I really like that price. And I probably should mention too that Borough were involved in a god-awful game against Swansea on match day 1, which they won despite having just 6 shots and 0.35 expected goals. So quite happy to oppose them here.
Okay, confident selection there for Mark. Anything down, even though the price is contracted, 228, a good price to take that now. Millwall to beat Middlesbrough. And in the Championship, of course, a reminded here for comment here, Mark, by Irish John, the QPR are still unbeaten in the league this season. So people thought you were any sort of fans based on the outright pod, but you are in fact a QPR fan. It's just for the record there, but you are unbeaten. And Adrian, you're sticking with the Championship here for your opening selection at Derby Coventry.
Yeah, I'd definitely be on side with the Millwall win there. I think I'd feel confident that they can deliver 3 points. Yeah, I'm going to go with Derby Coventry. It's an early kickoff on Saturday. Bit of a derby, obviously. Not too much distance between these two clubs, and I've actually watched them both in action already. I've co-commentated on their early games. Derby were absolutely abysmal. At West Bromwich Albion in the Carabao Cup last night. How they won, I just don't know. Had 4 shots in the whole game, completely pulverised by West Brom. And then they equalised the last kick of the game, brilliant free kick, and then they won the shootout. So pretty lucky. On the opening day, they were destroyed really by Stoke. They racked up 3 shots in that game at the Bet365. So not a great start to them going forward, and they did lack a bit of pace, lacked ideas. They've got a lot of injuries to forward players at the moment. I think a lot will rest on Carlton Morris, and they've lost Corey Blackett-Taylor to injury, who's the really only powerful sort of attacking player that they've got. So yeah, I don't fancy Derby for many goals early on in the season. And I went on the Cov Hull game, goalless draw on the opening day. They played okay. They were the better side, but they just lacked a bit of punch again in the final third, lacked ideas, guile. A lot will rest on Radoni and Haji Wright this season. Moments of brilliance from Sakamoto as well. So, yeah, look, they've had a 0-0. They had a 1-0 in midweek against Luton. Haven't really got going, but they don't give much away. The same as Derby, actually. Derby are a pretty good defensive team. So, yeah, I think the fact that it's an early kickoff, it's a derby. Neither attack is in full flow yet. I've got low scoring vibes here. Under 2.5 was a bit short, but you can back both teams to score no at 1.87. Just one of the last 9 meetings as well between these two has gone above 2 goals. So traditionally, it's quite a low scoring game. And on Derby, I talked you through how they've played. Their combined, their average XG over the first 2 matches this season is 0.28 per game. Pretty miserable, really. So, yeah, Derby Cov, both teams to score no, 1.87. Going to dip into League One for my next selection. It's been a really difficult start to the season for Peterborough. They lost Malik Mothersill, Ricky J. Jones, lost basically their best attackers. They also lost their captain, Hector Kyprianou, this summer. And I'm not convinced that the new faces are of the same level, if I'm honest. I think it could be a bit of a struggle for Peterborough this year. They've lost both games in the league. They got knocked out of the cup by Accrington Stanley, which isn't great. So, yeah, poor start to the season for them. They travelled to Wigan. Wigan beat Northampton easily on the opening day. Did get beat by Orient away, but then they won in midweek as well. So they got Paul Mullin, got Ryan Lowe, of course, a very attack-minded manager. And I just think he's going to really target these home games, Ryan Lowe, and go on the front foot and look to hurt the opposition and just play with a little bit more pizzazz and excitement that we've seen from Wigan in recent years, where it's truth be told, a little bit flat. They've not lost at home since March, the start of March. They've won both home games. I think 1.95, which, almost even money on the home win here against Posh, is a decent enough value. So, yeah, Wigan to beat Peterborough, 1.95.
Okay, that's Adrian's second selection. The other one, both teams to score now, Derby versus Coventry City. We move on to a popular section of the podcast, the best long shot of the weekend. We tend to give the guys a bit of rope, but around 4.40, 4.5 onwards anyway. Mark, we previewed this game at Old Trafford, Manchester United versus Arsenal. You're expecting a tense, cagey-ish game based on this bet.
Yeah, I'm not convinced this game escalates into a really entertaining match, actually. I think Manchester United showed enough last season under Ruben Amorim, but they can raise their game and alter their approach to be difficult to beat against the big boys. And look, they've obviously addressed the attacking issues. We'll have to wait and see how quick those three players are to integrate into their system. But I kind of gave a few clues away earlier in the show, but I do think the draw is a big runner this weekend. Arsenal just don't lose often, but they have found Old Trafford a really tough venue to win at. And I think on match day one, going away to Old Trafford, a revitalised Man United, you could say, after the summer business, that's a difficult task. And look, we've seen United raise their game, so there's no reason why they can't follow up their last two matches against Arsenal, both of which I think ended in draws, and produced another sort of stalemate here. And I said as well, 7 of Arsenal's last 9 games priced up at 2.1 or bigger away from home have ended all square. So I'm going to back the draw and include under 2.5 goals. So you're looking at 0-0 or the 1-1. The 1-1 was a scoreline in the last 2 meetings between the two. Comes in at 4-1 now on the Matchbook exchange site, 5.0. Quite happy enough to have a go on that.
Okay, 5.0. That's a jump from 11-4 or 3.75 if you just back the draw. So 0-0 or 1-0. Adrian, for you, it's Spurs versus Burnley here. So Thomas Frank, what do you make of that change? And you're expecting, I guess, a tough opening or maybe frustrating opening 90 minutes at home for Thomas Frank.
Yeah, I just looked at the price and I thought it was quite a big price on the draw between Spurs and Burnley. Look, I like the appointment. I think Thomas Frank's a really smart coach. Nice fella. Great track record in the Premier League. Yeah, I think he'll do a perfectly good job at Spurs. So it's not been an easy summer, has it? You haven't been able to bring in the players that they wanted. I think Kudus is a decent pickup, to be fair. But yeah, Burnley at home, most people are looking at it as a gimme. Well, look, Spurs' focus this week has been on the Super Cup, which is at the time of recording is tonight against PSG. So I think there's been a heavy focus on that game. But Burnley have had all summer to prep for this match, and they will go to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium supremely well organised. Scott Parker, I couldn't have been more impressed by him last season, the Championship Manager of the Year. His tactics are really good, defensively strong. Obviously, they smashed all sorts of defensive records last season. He just knows how to get a team to work together. And they'll be pumped up for this game. Look, Spurs are definitely no gimmies at home. Lost their last 3 home Premier League games of last season. Haven't had a clean sheet at that stadium in the league since February. Like I say, mixed bag pre-season for them. Burnley have lost a couple of defenders, have to be said. Well, one defender, Egan Riley, have lost the goalie, James Trafford. Also lost Josh Brownhill, who scored a lot of goals from midfield. So, but Kyle Walker's there, isn't he? So he'll play against his former club. Yeah, I just think they'll be really stubborn in the game. The fear for Burnley is, will they score enough goals? But if they're hard to break down, they might only need one to get a draw here, or they can even eke out a 0-0. It's not very rare that Spurs don't score on their home patch. But under Frank, I do think they'll be a little bit more pragmatic maybe than they were under Postecoglou. So yeah, let's see how it pans out. I just think that they could trip up here, Tottenham, against the promoted side, who will be super excited to perform on the stage. The draw is, I would say, above normal in terms of price for a draw at 5.2, which is why I've gone for it.
Yeah, big price perhaps. I don't think Mark was too impressed in some of the praise for Scott Parker there. I feel
Doesn't
this
like
podcast
him,
is every week, Mark, you can lead into your best bet here, mate. But I think every week's gonna be a referendum on Scott Parker and Burnley here. It'll be interesting how that goes throughout the season between you two.
I mean, happy to give him praise for what he achieved last season, but they did drastically overperform their metrics, and James Trafford was a big reason for that. So what was it, a 24-goal overperformance based on XG in terms of goals conceded last season? That's unsustainable. And I have to question some of the business they've done let's go out and spend a fortune on some Chelsea rejects. They're going to struggle this season. I'll move on because
I told you, Adrian, I just set him up, mate. I just set him up. That's all I'm doing.
Set him up. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Now, look, we'll see, won't we? Look, I think, of course, they're likely to struggle. Of course, they're likely to be in and around relegation. But I don't know. I just give them a shot at nicking something from this opening day fixture. Let's see.
Yeah, that's fair. With Spurs' attention elsewhere, it's a very quick turnaround as well. So, and I've said on the preview show that I have reservations about Tottenham this season and Thomas Frank, but that's a discussion for another day. So my best bet is going to La Liga, and I'm going to favour Valencia at home to Real Sociedad on Saturday evening. We can back Valencia with a 0-goal start at 185, the same as Draw No Bet. They're at home at the Mestalla. They enjoyed an incredible turnaround, really, following Carlos Corberan's appointment on Christmas Day last season. If you look at the points earned from Christmas in La Liga, Barca and Real Madrid, as you'd expect, clear and comfortably top of the table. Then you've got Villarreal on 40, Atletico Madrid 35, Betis 35, Valencia 34. So they were incredibly close to being the fourth best team in Spain in the second half of last season. And all of that is down to Carlos Corberan's astute leadership and organisational skills, which we've seen in the Championship for a good few years with West Brom. His teams are difficult to beat. Only 4 clubs lost fewer games than Valencia after Corberan was appointed, and they made Mestalla a real fortress yet again. 7 home league wins from 11, only losing to Real Madrid and Atletico and Athletic Club. And just like his West Brom side, Valencia worked on small margins, really, but they're awkward opposition. And I think an opening day home fixture against Real Sociedad is reasonable enough to expect them to get a decent result here. I do think Real Sociedad will be in for another season of disappointment in Spain. They finished in mid-table, but only 2 points and 1 place above Valencia last season. Yet the market is kind of marking them up as if they are considerably stronger than Valencia. As I say, they finished just 1 place above them. They've gotten weaker in the summer. Obviously, Zubamendi has left, which is a massive blow for their midfield. Yet they only won 5 away league games last season. They failed to score in 58% of their away games. They averaged under a goal a game, home or away, in La Liga. You look at their record against the top 13, 4 wins from 24, all of which came in San Sebastian, and they failed to score in 15 of those 24 matches as well. So we've got a side that struggles to score, struggles to win away, has gotten weaker, and is travelling to a team defensively strong, adept and organised. So therefore, I'm quite happy to oppose Real Sociedad at the prices and get Valencia on side with a 0-ball start at 185.
Okay, that's best bet of the opening weekend for Mark O'Haire and Adrian. Your best bet, you touched on it, Nottingham Forest versus Brentford. So give us your perspective on the Forest project post an incredible season last season.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a lot. I did agree with a lot of what Mark said, and he's reeled off so many stats from pre-season. I mean, all those goalless draws. To score 1 goal in 7 games, barely conceding any goals either. By the way, is very, very unusual. And it lends itself, I think, to a really low-scoring game. I'm not as downbeat on Forest as Mark. Definitely not. I think the defensive structure counts for a lot, and I don't see that getting worse, particularly this year. Milenkovic and Murillo, terrific centre-back partnership. I think Elliot Anderson's getting better and better in midfield. Maybe he's going to be more of a defensive role this time around. And, yes, they've lost Alanga, but they've brought in a striker to compete with Chris Wood and Doy. I'm hearing some good things about him, the replacement for Alanga. So look, I think they can get top half again. I really do. But respect Mark's take on that. It could go the other way. Of course, it could. But yeah, so in terms of this bet, my pick is under 3.5 goals. Now, for those that listened to Mark earlier, you'd absolutely get on board with under 3.5 goals. He's gone in under 2.5. So yeah, look, very few games at City Ground last season went above that threshold. We talked about the pre-season. I'm also thinking of Keith Andrews, who's a bit hamstrung in terms of his attack at the moment. Obviously, he's lost in Bumo. Wisser, I think, has made himself unavailable. They're short on attacking firepower. So I do see him as a studious coach, someone that's going to really be quite thoughtful and look to negate the strengths of the opposition. I believe he'll set Brentford up in a fairly pragmatic way this season, and certainly on the opening day where he'll want to get off to a really solid start. So I can see this being low scoring, but I will add in Nottingham Forest double chance. It's not very often they get beat at the City Ground. Don't have a brilliant record, I have to say, against Brentford, but I think, given the quality of players that they've got, how well they perform by and large on home turf, they're more than capable of avoiding defeat against the B side, Sean of Mbomo, Wissa, Norgard, and of course the manager Thomas Frank. So yeah, Brentford are a bit of an unknown, aren't they? But this feels like an opening day game at the City Ground that they really shouldn't lose. Nuno Espirito Santo's side. So yeah, Forest not to lose and under 3.5 goals. It's 1.8.
Okay, that concludes our podcast and opening weekend podcast. My thanks to Adrian and Mark. Insights.matchbook.com. Full recap of all the guys' picks. If you hit that like button and subscribe completely for free to the YouTube channel of Matchbook or the podcast feed wherever you listen to podcasts, it's the best no-cost way of supporting the podcast. And finally, for new and existing customers, if you head to our YouTube video now, comment your Premier League winner, top goal scorer, and 3 relegated teams, and producer Rob will pick 3 at random next week to kick off your Premier League season with a free bet. Reminder of the £10 money back special as well. That'll be available on insights.matchbook.com. It's Liverpool, both teams to score, and Mo Salah to score as well. We got through it all, guys. Myself, Mark, and Adrian will be back this time next week to preview game week 2, and there'll be a lot of talking points for game week 1, but enjoy it. It's great to have the Premier League back, and we're very much looking forward to bringing it to you throughout the season on Matchbook. Bye-bye.